We are seeking the public's assistance in locating 5 service-issued notebooks stolen from a car of an off-duty officer in April. As you know, on Saturday, April the 4th, an off-duty police officer was the victim of car prowling, which involved the theft of a police-issue patrol rifle. The theft also included notebooks used by the member to record details of the officer's on-duty interactions with members of the public. The rifle and its case were recovered. However, the notebooks remain unaccounted for. Anyone with information about the whereabouts of the notebook or of the theft, we're asking to contact police. We are currently working to determine what information may have been contained in those notebooks, and we're in the process of notifying between 350 and 400 people regarding a possible breach of their personal information. Details in those notebooks could include dates of birth, home addresses, driver's license numbers, among other personal information. We are taking the following steps to ensure those impacted can take precautions against identity theft and fraud. Anyone who had contact with the officer and whose information may have been breached is receiving a letter from the Calgary Police Service in the coming weeks, advising them of this situation and steps that they can take. Those affected have been encouraged to conduct regular reviews of their credit report, monitor their mail or credit card statements or other bills that come in their name but they did not apply for. We're asking that they regularly check credit or debit card statements for any suspicious activity and reporting any of suspicious activity or fraudulent activity to their financial institution as soon as possible. The service has notified the Office of the Information and Privacy Commissioner of Alberta and sought their advice and direction, and we continue to work with them and members of the public who are impacted by this information breach. So I'll answer whatever questions I can. And before I start, for those that need a visual, this is the notebook. They look exactly like this, 5 of these, which is line pages on the inside. And I'll leave that up there. So I'll answer whatever questions I can.
Why so long? Why so long to notify the public?
We were aware that these notebooks were taken that night. I know the focus initially was on the recovery of the rifle. We were aware of potential suspects. There were some investigative steps that were taken immediately that night. It was felt that these items would be kept as holdback evidence, knowing that very few people knew who had them or who took them. As it turned out, these notebooks played a major role in being able to recover that rifle. So it was an investigative decision that was made, balancing the need to get information regarding the location of the rifle with these notebooks being missing. Starting that night and the days that followed, we began the recreation of those notebooks. So there was a number of things that we have access to: shift reports, car crew activity, records or reports that were submitted by this officer, case numbers, calls for service, our net viewer, our CAD system. So the process of recreating those notebooks started immediately, and then the investigative arm kept that as part of their investigative strategy as holdback evidence.
Can you explain how the rifle was recovered?
Well, the information, we use some investigative techniques that I'm not going to get into to get some information as to the potential location of the rifle. Warrant was executed. The rifle was recovered. As a result of additional investigative work, we received information as to the potential whereabouts of the Pelican case, the second address. A warrant for a second address was obtained, and the Pelican case was recovered. So to this point, we have not recovered the notebooks. What I can say is there is still the other investigation going on regarding stolen property, and we have officers that are dealing with that file separate to this file.
Any suspects or arrests?
At this point, no suspects or arrests.
So can you provide a little bit of clarity? So you were aware that the notebooks had been stolen the night of April 4th? Is that right?
Okay, and I'll clarify right now. So the Pelican case with the rifle and the officer's duty bag, which is a nylon duty bag, the 5 notebooks were contained in that duty bag. Also in that duty bag would be administrative reports, blank witness statements, the metal ticket book, blank accident forms, the typical things you would take, like your mobile office, in the bag. That bag was grabbed at the same time. Also included in that was a reflective vest that you see the officers wear when they're out doing traffic control, but there were no other identifying police equipment or Calgary police equipment that went missing. So, okay, now your question again, sorry?
You were aware, but you were aware of the theft of those notebooks on April the 4th?
We were.
And you withheld that information for investigative reasons? I'm
Yes.
wondering, can you just try to clarify that a little bit more?
Hold back evidence.
Yeah.
So we knew that we had suspects. There were things that we wanted to follow up on. You have to look, when you're looking at investigations like this, if you give everything you have right off the bat, it makes it really, really tough to get people to talk and to get information, which ultimately led to the recovery of the rifle. So in this case, that information was held back, and as I mentioned, it played a significant role in the actual recovery of that rifle.
So even though you don't have the notebooks yet, you think that not having them...
Well, I'm not going to get into details of how those notebooks played a role in the recovery of the rifle. All I can say is that by us holding back that information, we received information specific to those notebooks that allowed us to follow up on the investigation and the recovery of the rifle.
So
But I
as
won't
an
get into
example,
details.
If you were to ask a suspect questions and they provided information such as 5 notebooks were here as well, that would give you the sense that
Typically,
it's credible information.
sure. Typically, you'll be conducting an interview. Question will be asked or something will be said that if that information's already out in the public realm, then it has no investigative value. So there are things that we often will hold back in investigations for those reasons, that we know we'll be conducting some follow-up investigative work and interviews. Those are important things that we have.
Do you think you might find the notebooks along with the rifle in the case when you recovered those items?
Honestly, yeah, we're very optimistic that as we went through this investigation that we would find those, and we still might. Fact is, we don't know where they are. They could be gone. They could be long gone. But we have to act in the best interest of the privacy and the information that was lost. So the hopes that up until this point we would have recovered those notebooks, they have not. We are still recreating those notebooks, but it's important now for investigative reasons. The details of that kit bag and the notebooks are no longer required. So that's why we are reaching out, letting the public know it happened, and specifically reaching out to those people that we've been able to identify that he may have had interactions with. And I can tell you it was November of 2013 to October of 2014 is the time period that those notebooks spanned.
Sorry, can you repeat those dates?
From October 2013, sorry, November 2013 to October 2014 is the time period that those notebooks covered.
Why
So that's why we're going back through recreating the notebook, letting people know who he had dealt with in that time period, that their information may have been breached.
Okay,
Sorry, go ahead,
so
Bree.
was the officer carrying so many notebooks from so long ago on his person?
Investigatively, like internally, we're looking at that as to why. We have, I can say that it's not uncommon. Often officers will take notebooks home if they have court cases coming up. They'll review their notes, they'll prepare for court. I think the retention period for our officers is about 5 years worth of notebooks that they are required to keep stored and in safe lock conditions. So in this case, to have notebooks from a year ago and have them in your possession would not be something unusual for the average officer. Why this officer had them in his possession, that's still being determined. What I can say is our expectation is that any document or any item that we have that contains personal information, it's our expectation that that information is protected and locked and secured. So we'll be looking at that as well as the rifle incident as a separate, another internal matter.
So was
Go ahead, and then I'll come.
Is the officer still suspended?
Yeah, the officer right now is still in the his 30-day suspended with pay. That's coming up May 15th, and that'll be reviewed again by our executive committee and legal. But ultimately, it'll be the chief that makes the decision as to whether or not that suspension continues.
Are there court cases in jeopardy?
At this point, We don't believe so. Of the cases that we have, or the notebooks that we have recovered or recreated, no. Our concern right now is for the identity theft or fraud issue of the people that he may have dealt with, primarily in your typical day-to-day accident reports, theft reports, that type of thing.
How does this incident inform the police best practices policy going forward?
Well, I can say that it's very concerning. I mean, the expectation is that when we deal with you every day and you're providing us personal information, that we're ensuring that information is protected and secured. So an all personnel memo to every member of the service went out under the signature of Chief Cook, specifically speaking about this incident, specifically reminding them of that expectation, including a link to our freedom of information and protection of privacy training that all members receive, to remind them of what our expectations are and to prevent this from happening, that these types of items need to be secured.
So you knew on April 4th that personal information, potentially hundreds of people was in the
Yep.
stolen. Why didn't you reach out to them immediately?
Well, it takes time to recreate those notebooks. In fact, we're still recreating those notebooks. So that started within days of that matter happening. So, like I said, the recreation piece is ongoing. We'll start sending out the letters now for the folks that we know of. And it'll take, as we're saying that within the next few weeks, if you were one of those people that we believe he may have dealt with, you'll be getting your letter. So it just took time to go through all the databases, as you can imagine, if you've lost a phone or anything, to try to recreate that. Fortunately, we have all the databases and a lot of information that we can go back on to recreate that. So it did take some time. And of course, investigatively, that was information we didn't want out initially when we were trying to recover that rifle.
What can you tell us about the officer and the nature of the cases he would have been looking into when he was using these notebooks?
Again, I don't know. That's part of the internal piece as to what court cases he may have had coming up, why he had those notebooks in the bag. Our expectation of privacy, again, this is all a bigger part of the internal piece. So you've got 3 investigations going on now, actually 4. You've got the initial theft, which now has led to another investigation, stolen property investigation. We have the criminal investigation that is being investigated now with regards to the weapon itself. And we have the internal piece now where we're looking at potentially these items not being stored properly, as well as the weapon being taken from our police facility. So there's a lot of moving parts here that are all going on, and it is taking time. And of course, our process, it's complicated. I mean, they're not easy, they're not cookie cutter. We have to be mindful of the other investigations that are going on as we're trying to do at the same time our internal investigation. I think I can safely say that our internal piece is completed. Now it goes to ACERT for review, and then it'll go to the Crown's office in Edmonton for charge recommendations, and then once that comes back, we'll have a clearer picture of what the future looks like for our officer.
Can you say whether he's whether he belongs to a particular unit, or was he?
I'm sorry.
Belongs to a particular unit, this officer?
Oh, he was just a patrol officer. I don't want to say just. He was a patrol officer.
So you mentioned the last time that there was you're in the process of putting together those steps to put it over to the Crown in Edmonton.
Yep.
So that still hasn't been done yet?
No, I think we spoke today to the investigators, and the impression I got is that part is done. So now the review part will start between ACERT and the Edmonton Crown.
Okay, so that's in their hands now?
It will be, yeah,
Okay.
if it's not there already, but yes.
Okay, and that's in terms of potentially charging the officer involved?
With criminal. Once that has been determined, then the internal piece with regards to any policy breaches will be looked at.
Now, okay, so is that part of it? Is there any potential criminal implications for these notebooks going missing as well?
No, it'll be
Okay.
an internal policy breach.
Okay.
Has anyone reported a personal breach of information
No,
as yet?
not at this point. That's why we're going to reach out proactively. Specifically, what we don't want is to panic the whole city. We have a good idea of that 350 to 400 people based on how we've recreated those notebooks so far, and we will reach out to them personally. And we've given contact information so that they can get in touch with us and we can help them and walk them through the process.
Is the service at all concerned about how it might be liable for any kind of civil action that might result from people's privacy being breached.
I mean, that, I couldn't answer that, you know, without speculating, but we will work closely with all the folks that we have impacted as to what they need, their needs are, and we'll see what happens moving forward, but, you know, I don't know what the future will hold.
Any more questions? Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
Kevin, do you mind just holding that book up again?
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry?
One last question.
Yep.
There was concern at the last press conference, you know, that there was a concern when the police officer's rifle had been taken. There was a trust and confidence issues there. Doesn't this get a little bit more? Doesn't the potential loss of trust and confidence get exaggerated now that we
Yeah.
know for sure that these owners are not?
Yeah, there's no question that, you know, this incident has, I think, really impacted the trust and confidence that the public has in us, and it's going to take some time to get that back. We went through the initial theft, and then we went through a bit of a high when the weapon was recovered, but we always knew in the background that this piece we would eventually have to go public. So I mean, it's just, again, it's just a bad situation that, again, is bad, and it's going to take time for the public to trust us, and we just got to keep working hard, keep moving forward the investigations, and hope that trust and confidence is gained back.